Hey everybody, Jess Nevarez here alongside Dalton Miller for the 4th episode of the PFN Dallas Cowboys Podcast. We are so excited to be here today because, Dalton, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot going on at the moment. There's a lot. It's a lot to take in. First and foremost, how are you with the stress of the last couple of days? Because we could all use a good therapy event session of the amount of work. Shout out to all beat reporters, beat writers across the NFL for the last 2 days.
I think sometimes, listen, I love what I do. It's fantastic. I chose this route and I worked incredibly hard to get here where I am at now. I don't know if people really truly understand the work that we put in once the football season gets to this point. I mean, because football hasn't even started yet. We haven't even gotten to real games. And even on the analysis side of things where I'm at, outside of the beat stuff, and I still do general assignment stuff as well, but just even outside of that, the work has already gotten insane. So this is what it is. I mean, you're doing, 12 to sometimes 18-hour days. I will be working when I get back to Portugal until 5 a.m. on Monday mornings, my time, because I cover the power rankings and we publish them before Sunday night football. So it's got to get done. It's got to get out. And then I got to update after Sunday night football. So my Mondays are absolutely chalked, but that's the way it is. And I love this sport and I love what I do. So I deal with it for about 5 months.
And you know what? That just goes to the next point of if you are tweeting and being a jerk to Dalton or anybody on social media, cool it. Be a nice human. Don't be a jerk. Or if you're going to be a jerk, just tell Dalton, I don't know, that
No, I'm fine
Disney
with
was
the
better
jerks.
than Nickelodeon because I'm still holding on to that.
Listen, the jerks are still interacting with me, so it's fine. I'm all about the engagement. I don't tweet enough at this point because my head is down and working. I should tweet more. I should post more stuff for engagement. I should post more video clips of players and prospects, but I just don't have the time for it at this moment. We'll get there.
You know what? It's a work in progress. See, look, my brain's not even here today
We're all
either.
tired.
It's okay. We're all tired. We're all getting through it. The good thing is that regular season football officially right around the corner. So all of this work gonna come together. But before we get into roster cuts, practice squad updates, trades, all the things that have happened the last couple of days, I think we should give the people what they want. Let's just give it to them right out of the gates. What is your hot or not take for the week?
So I had a hot or not take, and I'm going to go off script here, and I'm not going to talk about what I was going to talk about.
Oh, wow. Okay.
My hot or not of the week is that we will not see Trey Lance on the football field in a regular season game until 2025. He's going to sit in the shadows. He's going to sit in the shadows because I think we'll talk about it when we talk about the trade. But that is my take. We will not see him on the football field for the Dallas Cowboys until 2025.
Well, I think that's a hot take. I think that's a smart take, and I think it makes total sense. And yeah, we'll talk about it.
This is another thing we have to parse through. The hot or not. So the hot take is like I don't know about that. And the not is
you're right.
Lukewarm. Yeah, so I didn't want to like bring it up last time, and I forgot about it in the pre-show, so I figured I'd just get it out there. The hot is the hot, and the not is the not, and this is a not for y'all, which is the good take.
It's a not hot take. Yes, in that case, if you say it's a not hot. Mm-hmm. Okay. Look, again, we're all tired, guys. We're working through things. It's all good. We're here, y'all know. That's great. We'll get into that because Trey Lance, big deal. In case you live under a rock and you missed it, the Dallas Cowboys just absolutely decided, hey, let's shake things up right before our third preseason game, our third and final preseason game. Let's start with Trey Lance. We're already talking about it. Let's go there. Trey Lance, the Dallas Cowboys have a trade for quarterback Trey Lance. And mind you, this is after an entire offseason and training camp, OTA minicamp season of Will Grier thinking he's taken that third quarterback spot because there was nobody else to take it, right? So he's put in the work, he's done everything, and then in comes this trade for Trey Lance, which a great trade, very low cap space, a great deal overall. And then you have the most ultimate revenge game from Will Grier that I think you will see in a preseason game in a hot minute. After that game, obviously the speculation started. Talking to Jerry, I was there in the scrum when he was talking about it. He made a few notes. One, he doesn't ask anybody for permission when it comes to these trade deals. And two, it was something that happened so quick, he didn't really have time to talk through it with McCarthy or Dak Prescott. So a lot of things can get tangled in the weavy web that is that entire conversation with Jerry Jones. But ultimately, do I think it was something done on purpose? No. I think it was something they had to act quickly on, or they were going to lose out on Trey Lance being in the position to get that trade, and it was a really good deal. However, let's go into what happened. Will Grier had a fantastic game. The guys all very emotional to see Will Grier leave because he is part of that team. He's part of that quarterback room. Dak Prescott spoke after the game about it, and he said, I'm going to welcome Trey with open arms. I'm going to welcome any teammate with open arms. And he just that night said, my heart's just with Will tonight, because this guy essentially just lost his job 2 days before the final roster is supposed to come out with his name in it, right? My words, not his, but he was very heavy-hearted. Will Grier, and I think in this industry you have moments that you will always remember just being part of. And Will Grier's last interview during that game, right after in the locker room, is something I will always remember. He started getting teary-eyed, started getting very emotional when we were all asking him, how do you feel? What do you want other teams to know about you? Where's your mindset right now? I don't think there was a dry eye in the room when Will Grier was talking. And so, little recap there. How do you feel about the Trey Lance trade, Dalton? Because we haven't really gotten to touch base on this. A lot's happened. I didn't realize how much has happened since the last time we talked. How do you feel about it?
I thought it was a fantastic move. Listen, I think that every NFL team should set up their quarterback room exactly like the Dallas Cowboys are trying to set theirs up right now. It is an entrenched starter. It is a backup that you believe can come in for a couple of games and help you compete for wins for a couple of games. Obviously, if Dak Prescott is out for the season, we go to the old Tom Moore quote, if 18 goes down, we're effed, and we don't practice effed. So if Dak goes down, it's the end of the season. But if you have that guy who can come in, your defense can step it up a little bit. You can score about 17 points a game and still win football games. That's what you want. And then that third guy should be a young developmental talent. And Will Grier has only been in the league for a couple of seasons, but Will Grier was a 24-year-old rookie. Trey Lance is 23 years old right now. And Trey Lance has more physical upside than Will Grier will ever have. And listen, Trey Grier at West Virginia was unbelievable. And we saw some of that highlighted in his last preseason game for the Dallas Cowboys. But Trey Lance, if everything comes together, and there were some Dak Prescott comps for him coming out of North Dakota State, he's going to get time to sit in the shadows. And that's what he needed more than anything else. Yes, he needed the practice time. He needed to get on the field. He needed to see NFL defenses. But more than anything, he needed to get out of the shadow of being the third overall pick that they gave up 3 first-round picks for that never really got to get on the field and never earned the ability to get on the field. And yes, you can look cockeyed at Kyle Shanahan for a lot of things. He's a very emotional man when it comes to these sorts of decisions overall. You see guys like Brandon Ayuk in the doghouse. You see these guys get into his doghouse and never really get out. Ayuk got out of it, and he's been fantastic for them. But this is kind of what Shanahan does. And I think when you look at the situation, he just needed a fresh start. The 49ers just needed a fresh start. And this is, I think, one of the best situations that he could have found himself in. And it just so happens to fit the Cowboys quarterback room incredibly well.
And I will say, we're recording this on Wednesday, and I got to see him at practice for the first time. He is wearing the number 15, so that number 15 was not lonely for long. It went straight from Will Grier to Trey Lance. He is wearing the number 15. And what I did notice from him in practice this morning was his willingness to learn just so quickly and on the spot. I mean, you're talking about a guy that has to learn a whole new offense, which really took the Cowboys all off season to build, to learn, and perfect under Mike McCarthy calling the plays now, kind of starting from scratch. And they say no, it's more of their Texas coast, claimed offense. But really, when you're relearning something, it still takes time to adjust to. So he gets to come in with them kind of having a mindset of how to teach him at this point. He doesn't have to go along with learning as they were going. And so when I noticed, it was really cool. They were doing these drills, and they were doing their little spin drills, and he kind of was off on the timing, a little confused to what to do. He stopped for, I'm not kidding, 1 second, watched Cooper Rush and Dak Prescott do the drill, and then caught on instantly. So he's a guy, he's coachable, he's hungry, he wants to learn. He just really, talking to him yesterday, so talking to him on Tuesday, he really was excited for the page to just turn. And he was getting asked questions about, what happened in San Francisco. And he said, I really just don't want to talk about it anymore. I really just want to move on from that. And I think that's very healthy. He also mentioned Dak was the first one to really welcome him in, right? Like welcomed him with open arms. So we can shut down that media narrative of Dak Prescott hates Trey Lance. No, guys, no. I can tell you from being next to them, talking to both of them, Trey's really excited to be here. Dak understands that this is a business at the end of the day. He felt sympathy and empathy for his friend Will Grier, but now that it's time to play, Dak was helping him on the practice field today. So again, don't listen to that. I think that's just so crazy. But overall, really excited to see what he can do. Now, what we are going to go into next is roster cut day, the chaos of roster cut day. I'm sure, Dalton, you had a day. I am sure. That was my first roster cut day covering a team. And so that was very welcome to the NFL. Yesterday, it was a lot. But I did try to keep that tracker up to date minute by minute. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of learning curve there. Let's get into what we learned out of that, starting with injuries. Let's start there, and then we'll work our way back into it. So IR, as we expected, both John Stevens Jr. and David Durden out for the season on IR. And again, that designation comes from the timing of it. So you can have guys on IR that are out for the season depending on when you put them on IR, and then you can have guys put them on a little bit later, and then you can get them returning after a certain amount of weeks passes in the regular season. Nashawn Wright, he is going to be an injury reserve with a designation to return later this season, as well as Matt Waletzko. And Matt Waletzko, it's his injury, his shoulder injury is so interesting to me because that was the same injury he just had surgery on the opposite shoulder. So if there's a plus side to this, he's already kind of rehabbed through it. He knows what to expect, and he knows his body well enough, I think, to come back from that quickly. So just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update there. I will also say Donovan Wilson was not at practice today. So not really sure what's going on with that. Again, the sky's not falling. Plenty of time till the regular season. He hasn't been in practice since the start of preseason. So definitely going to keep a close eye on that as well. Now, let's go into another little small thing that happened during roster cut day. It involves somebody that I think is such a controversial player. You either love him or you hate him, but Kelvin Joseph, no longer with the Dallas Cowboys. Miami and the Dallas Cowboys did a trade, and I had to ask Adam Beasley how to say this player's last name because I wanted to make sure I was saying it correctly.
I know it. Let's hear it.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, I'm going to try my best. Oh, no. Now that I'm looking at it, you're making me nervous. Okay. Why don't you say it first, and I'll try to say it after that.
Nope. You got to say it.
You're going to embarrass me?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what podcasts are about.
You're going to embarrass me? Okay. Okay, hold on. Adam says it's Igbin. Oh, hold on. Igbin Ugin. Oh, no. I was saying it earlier. I said it all morning.
All right.
Look, if you want proof that I can say it, I said it this morning on Girls Talk, Boys Talk. I swear I did. I really did. Okay.
All right.
Tell me. Show us your way.
Igbenogany.
Noah Igbenogany.
Yeah. Like monogamy. Like mahogany. Like mahogany wood.
There's a lot of rhyming words going on here. You're not helping.
No, I'm not helping whatsoever. But yeah, it's Noah Igbenogany.
Nagani. You're not even saying it right, and you're embarrassing me.
I'm sorry, I said Igbenogany, but it's Igbenogany.
Noah Igbenogany. Well, welcome to Dallas, Noah Igbenogany, and Kelvin Joseph now in Miami. What did you think about this trade? Who got the upper hand with this one?
Nobody, and both of them at the same time. Listen, these are two guys who weren't going to make their respective rosters. So why not give these two guys who, again, one was drafted in the first round, the other one was drafted in the second round, give them each a fresh start and see if they can stick on a new roster. I think when you look at Kelvin Joseph, I was never particularly optimistic about him becoming the guy who a lot of people liked coming out of Kentucky. But when you look at his situation before he got to Kentucky and then at Kentucky, you have to work through those things. And then when you had some of the off the field stuff in Dallas that he had, which was pretty horrific and caused loss of life, I think getting him out of this situation, getting him a fresh start somewhere where he can start anew. He's incredibly talented. And I think when you look at the other side of things with Noah Igbenogany, maybe a guy who was playing a little bit out of position. He's a little bit smaller. I think that as an outside corner, he was a little bit overmatched, but he's a great athlete. And, he'll probably have to work on the outside here as well because Jordan Lewis and Deron Bland are kind of those nickel guys. But maybe this is an opportunity for him to get some nickel snaps, depending on what happens with Jordan Lewis's foot, how quickly he's able to get back. I think that his best role is probably as a slot guy, but I don't know if Dallas will use him that way. And once Nahshon Wright is back, who knows if he'll be able to stick around. I wasn't a huge fan of Wright coming out of college. I was a bigger fan of Igbenogany, but there's one that fits this scheme probably a little bit better than the other. And the guy who fits the scheme better is not the newest addition to the Cowboys.
And when Mike McCarthy talked about this decision, he said the decision was because he knew that he doesn't make the decisions, made that clear, that he knew, and he knew that the Dolphins had interest in having Kelvin Joseph on the outside, or on the inside, excuse me, and then Igbenogany being on the outside. So that was kind of their interest in him as well. So what you're saying is spot on. I'm just interested to see, what exactly this does, because it was kind of it just happened, right? And I'm happy that these guys still get a chance to play, right? But for Kelvin Joseph, he's coming off of what was his best offseason and his best preseason, right? He did show growth. I will give him that. He showed growth. John Fossil talked highly about his versatility and his ability to play physical on special teams. He was completing tackles. To me, he looked decent this offseason, to where I was impressed. I kept saying, that's Kelvin Joseph over there. Oh my goodness. So wishing him the best going forward. But I agree. I think it's a to be determined kind of situation, because I swear if he goes off in Miami, has a fantastic season, a lot of us are going to be like, whoa, that is something. But roster cuts, the hardest day in the NFL for a lot of reasons. Guys losing their jobs. It's not something you ever want to see. You never want to lose your job. I never want to lose my job. So I think we gloss over that sometimes as humans, saying, oh, it's just a business. But I mean, really, I never want to lose my job.
The other thing that we have to realize, and that not a lot of people do realize, is these guys at the very bottom of the roster, these guys fighting for these roster spots, are not making that much money. They're making money that is comfortable if it is something that you can sustain over years and years and years. But this money runs out very, very quickly. So I think that that's something that people have to realize as well. These guys who are losing their jobs and getting waived are not making much money.
Absolutely. And I like to start with that when we talk about roster cut day, because it's not like we're ever rooting for these guys to not have a job. I think that's crazy. But let's start with your initial reaction to the 53. Was it kind of what you had projected? Does it look very similar to what you thought it would look like? Anything shock you that, I don't know, just kind of took you back that you weren't expecting?
I'm sure it will change, but there's 7 offensive linemen right now. I assume Chuma Edoga will be back, if he is not back already. But right now you have Tyron at left tackle, Tyler at left guard, Tyler at center, Zach at right guard, right, and then Terrence Steele at right tackle, and then TJ Bass and Asim Richards are your only 2 guys that are backing them up. And listen, Asim has been fantastic at left tackle in the preseason. I was shocked by how good he looked, just because I thought it would take time for him to really, figure things out. And I thought that he would end up being kind of that swing interior guy and maybe not the swing offensive tackle, but it looks like that might be his job right now. TJ Bass, I thought, was fantastic. Really excited that he ended up making the roster. But outside of them only carrying 7 offensive linemen right now, there were no huge surprises for me. I thought that I think the big one is Isaiah Land being waived and then being claimed by the Colts. But I think when you look at this defensive end outside linebacker room, it's really hard to find a spot for a guy like that. And I know that people wanted to say, hey, well, what about Dante Fowler, veteran guy, save a little bit of cap money, maybe develop a guy behind. But this is a team going after a Super Bowl right now. And Dante Fowler is the guy that can help you out right now doing that.
Real quick, I do want to mention, because the reason we're recording this podcast so late is because this is a very busy day in terms of guys getting re-signed and waivers and all those things. Chuma Edoga did re-sign to the Cowboys 53 as planned. And that was it was a short-term release just so that way they could put Matt Waletzko on IR for his shoulder to miss at least 4 games. So that's all timing. We figured that. So
yeah, the website hasn't updated that yet. So
I got you. Look, I got you on the fly. Yeah, I will always have your back. I think for me, something I was really high on was keeping 4 tight ends on the roster. The initial 53, I was very high on Sean McEwen. You know this. I have defended him through and through. I was actually really surprised because on Monday, there was a conference call with Mike McCarthy and the beat writers. We were all on there. I asked him about the tight end group and just said, generally, tight ends, what growth have you seen from them during this time, starting way back in OTAs, even to now ending your final preseason game? And he talked about Sean McEwen without me even asking specifically about Sean. He said, I love his leadership. I love how he's taken in the role of being the older guy in the room. He's great. He was talking up all this praise about Sean McEwen, right? So I was a little shocked to see that he didn't make the final 53. However, we'll get into practice squad. He has been signed to the practice squad since. So I do think there's still hope you see him week 1 against the Giants. I think he's a guy that you see get activated fairly quickly. He really is a guy that has made a difference in that room, whether people on the outside have seen it or not. Talking to the tight ends throughout the entire season last year, just that tight end room with Jake Ferguson and Peyton Hendershot, even talking to Sean, they all are very connected. Luke Schoonmaker says nothing but good things about Sean. So I was really bummed, actually, because I had talked to Sean last day of training camp. I was like, let's do this interview. Let's get this going. He gave me some really good stuff. He talked about his off-season training, how he switched that up to make sure he felt like the best version of him and that he could feel the difference. He talked about, this being the closest that this room has been since he's been on the team. And I think that's very obvious. But to hear a player actually say that is different. So I was a little shocked. And so that led to the Hunter Lipke signing, which I kind of think was set in stone with the Raiders game, and McCarthy absolutely admitted 100%. that we couldn't ignore him, right? And good for him. He said Hunter Lipke is a guy that started slow, kind of, had to find his own pace, and that's okay, that every player does. But once he found his groove, they said he would do something every day at practice that had them talking. And then that Raiders game was just, fortifying his spot. So exciting stuff there. Let's talk practice squad because, like I said, continues to be a busy day. But so far, these are the guys that the Dallas Cowboys have signed on the practice squad so far. You have C.J. Goodwin, Malik Jefferson, Sheldrick Redwine, Tyrus Wheat, Darrell Johnson, Josh Butler, Sean McEwen, Princeton Fant, Malik Davis, Brock Hoffman, Jalen Cropper, Tyron Johnson, and Earl Bostic Jr. And then there's just a lot more going on. We talked about Chuma. Obviously, they are going to re-sign Trent Sieg, their long snapper. Again, that was a temporary transaction. And then Michael Gilkin actually just tweeted out not too long ago that the Cowboys are planning to sign former center / guard Sean Harlow to the practice squad. So interesting. It said that he had an invite to the Giants practice squad and then declined it to go to Dallas. So I think that's very interesting. I think that is very, very interesting.
Here's the thing. All practice squad guys make the same amount of money. His money is going to go a lot further in Dallas than it would New York, or I guess New Jersey. So good decision by him to come to Dallas instead of sticking on the practice squad in New York.
Well, I want to say, speaking of New York, they picked up wide receiver Dennis Houston. So Dennis Houston found himself in New York as well. He's somebody that I think will do well in the NFL. I think he's a guy that got great experience in Dallas. It's just always sad to see those guys go to your rival opponents there. So is there any other, I guess, area of concern for you now that things are starting to become a little bit more clear? If there's anything that just is bothering you, keeping you up at night, having to do with this roster, what is it?
It's just the depth of the offensive line. Because you're going to need it. You know eventually Tyron Smith is going to miss games. So at some point, what are they going to have enough? Are they going to be able to figure it out offensively to be able to get the ball out of Dak Prescott's hands quick enough to not have that be such an issue when Tyler Smith ends up going to left tackle? So I think that's, God, guys, that's really my only worry about this football team. Look at this roster. This roster is good. This roster is deep. This roster is ridiculously deep on the defensive line. I think that they're going to be really, really good as long as this offense isn't a total disaster. And this defense, I think, even with the more difficult schedule this year, is going to be able to produce like a top 5 unit once again. So I think that this is a team that I hate expectations, especially with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm 31 years old. 1994 was a long time ago, but this is about the best chance that we've seen them have before a season has started in a long time. The NFC is not very good. You can expect a little bit of regression from the Philadelphia Eagles. San Francisco can't keep a quarterback healthy for a full 17-game season plus the playoffs, so it's a good chance.
What's a disappointing record for you for the season?
A disappointing record. I think it's a difficult schedule. So I think anything less than 11 wins, and I'd be a little bit upset. But as long as they make the dance, and I'm not usually a just make the dance guy, but with this NFC, I'm kind of a just make the dance guy because the NFC is very good overall, or the NFC East is very good. I think that you're clearly better than Washington and New York. But that's a playoff team from a year ago and a team that just missed out on the playoffs and got better on offense. So I think that it's going to be tough to go and win 12 games again, but 10-7 would feel a little bit disappointing with this roster.
Yeah, I agree. I think not only can the fan base feel how special this team is, they feel it inside this locker room. I mean, mind you, I was only in the locker room last season as well, but during that time, yes, the guys will talk about wanting to win the Super Bowl. That's all they say now is you ask them, what's your expectation for 2023? Usually you get answers of like, oh, I want to be better with a better teammate, or I want to be growing in this department. Every single one of those guys, you ask them, they're like, Super Bowl. Nothing less, Super Bowl. We want to be in Vegas come February. That is what they will tell you. And I agree. I think it's really special, but I really want them to have more than 12 wins. And I'm not trying to be a homer. I'm not trying to do anything like that. I just think when they've been able to pull it off, and, this kind of does put pressure on Mike McCarthy as the new play caller. If Kellen can, be a very high scoring offensive coordinator, what can Mike McCarthy do? And how can that impact the record? I mean, all those things go into play when you're talking about, decisions that have to be made later on in the season. So I am really excited. I can say the preseason really amped me up for their Texas Coast offense, and I don't even think they were showing their hands all the way with it. So I'm very excited for what this team can do going into the 2023 season. But overall, this roster is powerful. This roster has so much depth inside of it. And I've always said it's the perfect mesh between young and old coming together, blending to just be so powerful. Powerhouse of a team, if I had to say so myself. So yeah, I'm really excited. But last but certainly not least, New York Giants, Sunday Night Football. It is inching closer and closer and closer. So if people want to kind of bug you before that, Dalton, if the people want to tweet you, if the Giants fans listening, because I'm sure they are, because they're all really Cowboys fans, if they're listening to this and they want to tweet you and argue with you about all of this, where can they find you ahead of the regular season? Because there's a lot of stuff you're going to be putting out that they don't want to miss.
You can find me at I forgot my own Twitter handle for a second.
Do you know how to spell your name? Are you good?
Yeah, it's Dalton B. Miller, at Dalton B. Miller. I almost said my email address or my Gmail address instead of my
wow.
Yeah, so I don't know what I was thinking there. Dalton B. Miller is where you can find me. And yeah, sure, do. But you can only find me if you have a profile picture and you have verified your email address. Otherwise, I don't see what you have to say.
That's hilarious. That's a setting? You can do that?
Yeah, that's a setting.
Ooh, we're going to have to link up on that.
One.
Look, the mute button is my favorite feature on these apps, especially during the thick of football season. So I got you. You got to protect your peace there, my friend. But you can find me at Jess Nevarez _ on Twitter. Continue to see what the Dallas Cowboys are doing in these next couple of weeks. I'm boots on ground at the Star when they have open practices for media, locker room, press conferences. I am there and I am ready to go. When I tell you, I am so stoked to be doing this. And now that the regular season is just around the corner, it kind of started to hit me today of this is my job and I get to do this every single day. And it's exhausting and it's a lot. But let me just say, I'm so thankful and I'm so excited to do it. So got to follow along because it's going to be a fun ride. But unfortunately, that is all the time we have today, Dalton. Things go by quick when you're talking about Cowboys football. It really does. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. First of all, Dalton, I hope you do. And I hope everybody listening has a fantastic rest of their day because they listen to us. And why would they not after that? So make sure to stay tuned with everything on profootballnetwork.com. Dalton does a lot of work. I do a lot of work. Go support us. Go click. Go read. Go engage. Do all the things. Until next week, we'll be back here on the PFN Dallas Cowboys Podcast with plenty more to talk about. So until then, stay fantastic, be amazing, and we will talk to you soon.